Hello and welcome to a brand new series on the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the best captaincy for game week 1, and we're going to do this for the following weeks as well, all the way up till the end of the season, using stats, fixtures, predicted points and all that sort of stuff to really pinpoint who the best captaincy is for game week 1. Now you can see on the screen we have 4 options today. There is a lot of really nice options for captaincy in game week 1. We've brought it down to 4 with Salah against Ipswich away from home, Haaland against Chelsea away from home, Saka against Wolves at home, and then Isak against Southampton at home. So as we look at the predicted points, we are using Fantasy Football Hub and FPL Team as our 2 sources for this, and it is very similar in terms of the points. There isn't big discrepancies between the 4 of these guys. You can see with the Fantasy Football Hub points, Salah is leading the way with 7.5, followed by Haaland and Isak drawn on 7.2, and then Saka is predicted to score the lowest at 7. Now when you look at FPL Team, it's a little bit different. Saka's actually the highest one for scoring the most points, followed by Haaland at 6.7, then Salah at 6.6, and FPL Team don't expect Isak to do as well as the other 3, with him down at 6. Now obviously for our captaincy we want to be getting the players with the highest chance of goals and assists, because that is where most of the points come from. And then of course we also want them to be playing 90 minutes, or at least as many minutes as possible. So for Salah, he is leading the way for X minutes. He is expected to play 90, and then you can look at the rest of the players. Again, not really too much of a difference. Haaland 86, also Isak 86, and then Saka at 87. So again, not really too much differences between these guys, and there is no clear advantage when trying to pick out from the minutes alone. When we look at the expected goals, the expected assists and the expected goal involvements, this is all the stats from last season, so obviously we can't really take this into account too much because it is a full season ago, but it is all we can go off of for game week 1. Obviously as we get more further into the season and we start doing these videos, we can look more at the stats from this season, but obviously we've only got last season to look at, and this is what we've got. So Haaland led the way by far for XG. No real surprises there. He ended up with 29.6 XG, and he obviously leads the way for that one, followed by Saka at Salah at 20.9, and closely followed by Isak at 20.2. Now Saka was way down there at 15.4, so in terms of XG, you're looking at almost double for Haaland last season than Saka, but Saka was the top for expected assists with 10.9, and then when we look at the expected goal involvement, obviously because Haaland's XG was so high, he is leading the way, but it is quite or not as much of a jump when we're looking at the XGI, because Haaland's expected assist is so low. So looking forward to game week 1 now, we have the goal scoring odds from each of our players and the opposition clean sheet odds as well. So Isak is actually the one that leads the way here with 55% to score 1 or more goals. Again, it is very tight at the top. You can see Salah at 51% and Haaland at 50% to score a goal as well. So it is very, very close. And realistically, we could see all of these guys end up with a goal. The one who is a little bit lower than the rest is going to be Saka, who only has a 36% chance of scoring a goal. When we're looking at 2+ goals, once again, Isak leads the way. Not as much. Again, he has only 20% to score 2 or more goals against Southampton at home, followed by Salah again at 17% and Haaland at 15%. So if we're basing it just off the odds, Isak looks the best, followed by Salah, and then Haaland in at third. However, Wolves do have the lowest chance of a clean sheet against Arsenal. Now, the problem with Arsenal is they do spread their goals around a lot between all of the attackers, whether it's Odegaard, whether it's Havertz, or whether it could be Jesus, who looks like he could be starting at the start of the season. Obviously have the lowest chance of a clean sheet. However, Saka does still not come anywhere near the other guys in terms of scoring a goal. When we're looking at the likes of Isak, Salah and Haaland, it is still pretty low clean sheet odds. It looks as though Chelsea have the highest chance of a clean sheet against Man City, obviously because Chelsea are still a decent club, and they are playing at home in that fixture as well. Southampton only have a 9% chance of a clean sheet against Newcastle, and then Ipswich actually have more of a chance of a clean sheet against Liverpool than Southampton do against Newcastle, which is pretty interesting. Whether the home fixture plays a big part in that is yet to be seen, but it's definitely something to take into consideration. Next, we want to be taking a look at the set pieces. Now, obviously, when we're trying to pick attackers, being on penalties is a very, very good advantage over other players and can really lead to getting a lot of easier points because of how many penalties get given in the Premier League. Now, when we're looking at all four of these guys, all four of them take penalties. Now, Isak is someone who isn't actually the main penalty taker for Newcastle, but Wilson has been ruled out of game week 1, which means he will be on penalties and he will probably play more minutes than usual with Isak ruled out. We've got Saka as well. Now, he is the official penalty taker, but he is quite annoying in that sense. We noticed that last year when Odegaard took quite a few penalties, and Saka does seem to give them away quite often, but whether that's something to take into consideration, he is still classed as the main penalty taker, and he does still take most of Arsenal's penalties, so I wouldn't really be too worried about that. Haaland obviously always on penalties for Man City, and Salah always on penalties for Liverpool. Now, with the new manager, there could be a slight change in there. Obviously, in my personal opinion, McAllister is better than Salah on penalties. Whether Salah is going to give that up, I doubt it, so I think he should be okay. In terms of free kicks, Haaland is listed as a free kick taker for Man City, but he is like 4th in the pecking order, so we're not going to classify him as that. In terms of corners, Saka does take some corners for Arsenal. He does share those with Declan Rice, so he doesn't take all corners, which is why he's highlighted in orange. But as a corner taker, obviously it is really nice for picking up a couple of extra assists. Now, obviously, as it is game week 1, we have just had a full summer of rest for some players. Now, when we're looking at the rest that each of these guys got, obviously they were all on international duty, and the only person who had a tournament and who was not able to get a full rest over the summer was Saka in this situation. Now, Salah played in a couple of qualifier matches in the time where the European teams played their friendlies before the Euros, so he has had a couple of matches, played 90 minutes in both of those at the start of June. Obviously, that is now 2 months ago, so there's nothing to really worry about that. Other than that, he came back for a full pre-season, played 4 out of the 5 matches and ended up with a goal and 2 assists, so a fairly decent pre-season tournament for Salah. If you watched yesterday's video, you will notice that he was playing more on the wings, so whether that makes him less of a goal threat is something to keep in mind. In terms of Haaland, again, also played in those friendlies before the Euros, was not qualified for the Euros, so had a full pre-season with Man City where he ended up with 5 goals and 0 assists, so a very, very nice pre-season for Erling Haaland. I believe he scored a hat-trick in one of those games as well. Obviously, Saka was on international duty with England at the Euros. He has been on holiday for a large majority of pre-season and only came back for 2 games, where in the first game he only played 45 minutes, so he's got 0 goals and 0 assists there, and again, is just something to keep in mind if you're potentially looking to captain Saka. Then we have Isak, again someone who wasn't qualified for the Euros in Sweden, played a couple of friendlies before the Euros, had a full summer off, came back for pre-season, played 4 out of the 5 matches and has 2 goals and an assist, and again a very, very solid pre-season. So putting all of that information together, it was a very tough decision between Haaland and Isak for me. They were my final 2. I have decided to go for Isak purely because he has the highest goal scoring odds. Not often does a player have higher goal scoring odds than Haaland does, and I'm happy enough to go with him. Also, with Wilson ruled out of the match against Southampton, I think he should play at least the majority of the match. Will also be on penalties and will also play as striker. We don't have to worry about him playing out in the wings. Again, the fixture has played into this a little bit. Obviously, the home fixture against Southampton is a lot more beneficial than the away fixture against Chelsea, so that did come into play when trying to decide the captaincy. And that is it for this video. So we're going for Isak for game week 1. I believe the stats favour him a little bit more than the other 3, and I'm more than happy to back him against Southampton. We will come back to this next week to see how we get on, and hopefully we can build up a nice streak of good captaincies. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you all in the next one.